And good evening from everyone within that magical 10-mile radius of Old Smoky Butte. It is the reason that you turn on AM radio. It's time for Pretend Football Now. My name is Sike and with me, as always, is Maul Paderos. Maul, how you doing this week?
Hey, I'm absolutely fantastic. Thanks for asking. It has been a great week of pretend football. You wild and crazy pretend sports fans who tuning in from all over these great 10 miles are really in for a treat this week.
That's absolutely true. We covered not only one town, but several villages, so I hear.
Well, I mean, that's what they say, but the only villages that really count are the ones that have been, pillaged by El Chapo.
That is grim, but also true. Speaking of villages and towns, Maul, let's get right down to business because we had a heck of a week of pretend football.
We did.
You know what's really important to these small villages and towns? Scalpels. They're good for healing folks, and they're also good for your old buddy Sike Manders to dissect a pretend football match. So, the Cooter Institute Beavers have gnawed down the Knights of the King of Limbs like so much cordwood, battling back from a truly miserable couple of weeks to prove that these particular Beavers are not on the endangered list. But that being said, the game was a nail-biter, ending finally with the Beavers victorious 83-78.5, and this album was named for a famous English tree stadium. The Beavers' blitz was led by Kyler Murray, who threw for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns worth 16 juicy fantasy points, despite taking a beating out there on the field, ending up with a total of 8 sacks. His brain has got to be mush by now. So the Beavers attacked out of the air this week, highlighting the laser-accurate grappling of their carefully chosen wide receivers. DJ Chark's hands were on fire this week. He caught 4 out of 5 targets for a total of 15 points. However, perhaps even outshining this accomplishment, veteran football fisherman Philip Dorsett hauling in 6 of 7 targets for a total of 15 juicy points. Wily veteran DeAndre Hopkins was targeted 7 times and turned 6 of those into gain, bringing in a nice side of cream corn for 9 points. But that's not all. The Knights of the King of Limbs battled back. They rallied around Carson Wentz, who threw for 259 yards, 2 touchdown passes, worth a respectable 21 points. On the ground, the Knights sounded the charge with running back grit. 4-year vet Derek Big Slick Henry sniffed out touchdown gold, rushing for 44 yards and a short reception for 10.5 points. Travis Kelce was no slouch, counting 7 of his 8 targets for 89 yards, but the big man couldn't find the end zone, but that 11.5 nose wasn't no chopped liver. Allen Robinson reeling in an additional 9 points with 60 yards receiving. However, the mediocre efforts by Giovanni Bernard, Stephon Diggs, and Steven Spookyfoot Gostkowski doomed the home team's efforts.
That's something. That Spookyfoot, he'll always bite you when it really counts, doesn't he?
It's true. It's absolutely true. I mean, you want to start the guy because his last name kind of sounds like Ghost, and around this time of year,
It's true.
You just said it and forget it, but
no, it was a tough one, a tough loss. Another one for the Knights of the King of Limbs. I think some changes might need to happen there. Coach Kylan needs to figure out what's happening with that roster.
Sliding out of control to the point where other teams must be salivating at a chance to play the Knights.
Yeah, well, I know I can't wait to see how many more games in a row they'll lose. But he is not in the Maul's matchup. No. We have some real hard-hitting journalism this time around there, Psych.
I love to hear it.
So in Maul's matchup this week was a tale of pure gut-busting sadness as the Cincinnati Heartbreak trounced the Pine Lake Park Tombstones 118-98. Now, the Beast Dan Swanson squad was outstanding in all phases this week. Alvin Kamara cruised to 31.5 points, and Andrew Luck's shadow, Jacoby Brissett, added 22 more. Did you know Andrew Luck had a shadow?
I was aware. I just wasn't sure that he was indeed a man.
In fact, there were virtually no duds in the Heartbreak lineup this week with an amazing 98% efficiency, which was the best performance of the week.
Absolutely.
You see, the true cause of the chest pains for Coach Scott Martin, whose Tombstones outscored all but 5 other teams this week, yet still somehow managed to bumble to 0-2, is the fact that he is only 1-5 for the year despite outscoring all but 6 other franchises thus far. Deshaun Watson, Zeke, Feed Me Some More, Porridge Elliott, and Philip Lindsay paced his squad to a real high score, but it just wasn't enough. Now I can see Coach Scott now, face pale and aghast, clutching at his chest, moaning, "And it's the big one." Certainly a Fed case for the ages.
Absolutely. It's just heartbreaking to be blown out of the water so thoroughly by a man who once coached a team that was called the Not Very Goods.
He's definitely not. He kicked that moniker to the curb, and he's off to a roaring start, 4-2, one of the higher scoring teams in the league, and certainly a threat to at least make the playoffs, if not take this whole darn thing.
Absolutely, and I mean Cincinnati. Who would have thought?
Who would have thunk it?
So we've got a little bit of agony on the airwaves. I can feel it entering my ear now. So let's take a look at this really quickly here. Saquon Barkley is going to be out for 4 to 8 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Now, this is devastating. The guy was a number 1 draft pick. Everybody wanted this guy. And Mulga's team press attendant has stated, and I quote here, that nothing might be wrong, maybe doctored photos and fake news. He's a really good guy, top guy, maybe not. Who knows, but how dare you assume the worst or best about anyone ever? And I guess that means something?
That press release really is a shocker because, the Mulga squad, the president's men there, they've always been so clear and concise and have made the absolute utmost logical sense at every turn.
Absolutely. I mean, they're normally, love them or hate them. They are truthful, right? It's a kind of truth. It might not be yours or mine, but it's a kind of truth.
That's definitely fair. But they tell it like it is, and that's what it's all about. You have to tell it like it is. Like, for example, he threatened this week to just put a hurting on everybody. Said he was going to be out there grabbing all the pussies. But the Vagina Flowers and the Beavers beat up on him. He went 0-2 this week against the Flowers and Beavers.
Absolutely. Now, this one is kind of a sad one for old Sike Manders here to say, but the Cleavers are continuing their early season struggles. They've lost 2 this week, dropped them, including a 2.5 gut-wrencher to the Dirigibles.
Well, I have to say that the Cleavers probably had that coming. There's no better time to see Coach Joe Pfeiffer and the Cleavers fall now to a 3rd place in the division, 2-4. Thank God for the Dobbs Ferry Federalists, at least in Joe Pfeiffer's eyes. At least he's almost assured a playoff berth because Coach Art Menzie can't figure out what the heck's going on. But I don't know if the Cleavers are going to get out of it. They've spent almost all their free agent money, and they absolutely are looking to be in trouble so far this year.
I don't know. I'd have to disagree with you there, Maul. I think the Cleavers are gutsy and gritty enough to just tough it out. They are backwoods guys, and everybody knows backwoods guys are tough.
Speaking of backwoods guys, the Gopniks from Arbat, 109 points last week, an outstanding performance by them. It outscored all but 4 other teams in the league this week, yet somehow only went 1-1 with a loss to the early season surging and undefeated Philadelphia Fanatic +1's coach Onyx Garcia. Has to be excited about that.
Absolutely. I mean, the Gopniks have been on an up and down time, and Coach Igor did say, "Izinahoy sukablat pizdish." I don't know what that means, but it sounds very scary.
Yeah, I would. It's terrifying to me. I'm pretty sure that means bring me a salad fork to go along with my tuna, but I'm not 100% sure.
That's true. The Russians do eat many types of fish. I don't know.
You can never know that.
Absolutely. But let's talk about the highest scoring team in the league.
Yes, let's.
Somehow, it is the South Sharpsville Gravy Legs, 6-0, dominating the Lethal Evil division.
Yeah, they are absolutely on fire. Currently scoring 745 points. That is nearly 100 points clear of the next closest team. They've spent almost no blind bid dollars, and they are just rolling over every single opponent. That has to be something that Coach Mike Cooter feels fantastic about.
You know, I mean, maybe this was all in time. You know, Sharpsville was a tired old banner that would just wave here and there and usually fizzle out in the mid to late season. But South Sharpsville, it's got the team energized. These guys are ready to play some pretend football.
Yeah, there's nothing says pretend football quite like the pretend village of South Sharpsville, only a scant 3 miles away from Old Smoky Butte. Do you know that if they had played every team, every game, all year long, their current record would be 41-4. Wow.
That is impressive. I only wish that it helped diminish the stink that does make it up here to even Old Smoky Butte.
Well, we can only all hope. We had some real bench blues this week, too. Now, these players were really good at pretend football.
Sure.
But their owners were really bad.
You know, riding the pine and screwing the line is an old tradition of some of these players. Sometimes they plan it. You've got to know your players as a pretend football fantasy manager.
That's the absolute truth. And this first one is one that really, really stings. You see, Coach Shooter Cook did not start Giants quarterback Daniel Jones, who would have put up 35 points. You got to go with your heart, Shooter. You've got to go with your heart. You can't get a guy like Daniel Jones and then just put him on the bench. He scorched for 35 points, and he didn't see the field at all. It's terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I am also told that he sat Tony Pollard for 21.5, just left right there on the pine.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the only solace in all this is the fact that if Giggity had started both of those players, it still wouldn't have mattered. He would have continued to keep the exact record that he had. So maybe not great from an efficiency standpoint, but you take what you get. Death Squad also had another great opportunity. Could have won the game they lost this week if they would have started Austin Hooper, who had 21 points. Could have pulled out a victory. The Death Squad leaving one on the table last week.
Absolutely. We also have the Luck Sacks, who were tormented by Nicole Hardman. That's 16 points. We've got DJ Moore for 12.5 points. Miles Sanders, 13.5 points. Now, again, this could have won him one more game. It was just points left on the bench. Sitting there moaning and groaning along with them bench blues.
That's exactly it. The bench blues moan and groan for everyone. And the Roswell 51ers also had another player who left over 20 points on the bench. Darren Waller, tight end, would have given him 21.5 more points. Now, that's all fine and well. Again, it wouldn't have changed the end result for the 51ers, but he's been looking to try to find the best combination of players. I know he's been active in the trade market, active in free agency, and here he's got a stud sitting on his bench, and he just decides to sit him. I don't understand it.
Well, who knows? Who knows at all? And not even the Philly Fanatics plus ones escaped the bench blues this week. They sat LaShawn McCoy, who wrangled up 21.5. But honestly, that wouldn't have changed any of the results. His team has just been surging in this early season, and he's hoping that he could keep the momentum up.
Yeah, he's doing rather well. Again, 6-0, currently scored 658 points according to our statisticians in the power rankings. He's number 2. He's looking real strong. I think it's going to be an interesting round out. But would you believe it? We are basically a quarter through this pretend football season, and we are seeing some really amazing things there, Sike.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always said it. I wish there could be pretend football the year round, but none of the players would survive.
I mean, that's absolutely true. Do you know what the biggest shocker to me is? The fact that the Knights of the King of Limbs, I know we poke a lot of fun at Coach Kylan Swanson, but did you know that even though he is 0-6, he has scored more points than all but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. Only 7 teams have scored more points than him, yet he's 0-6. That's the sting.
He must be up late at night thinking about those lost points, what he could have done, what he could have changed. But sometimes there's no substitute for actual skill, buddy.
That's right. You gotta have skill. You gotta have a little bit of luck, but you also have to make sure that your mom isn't running your team.
This is absolutely true. So busy just crushing the hopes and dreams of everyone with that Unicorn Death Squad. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, 5-1, definitely doing a great job. They are really, really well off and very efficient as well. 85% efficiency. That looks to be the third highest in the league, third or fourth highest in the league, which is really, really good work. But then again, we have our South Charlottesville Gravy Legs. Coach Mike Cooter, we talked about him earlier. 91% efficiency.
Yeah,
he's just hitting on all cylinders right now.
That's absolutely true. It's going to be a really tough time to find a team that's going to be able to muster the know-how and maybe even have just that much luck to prevent. I mean, it's early in the season yet to maybe call an undefeated team, but the way he's going, if this continues, this could be record-setting.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. If he keeps going at this pace, he could be one of the greatest pretend sports franchise teams in history.
Well said, Maul. Well said. And because you're so well said, why don't you give us a word to sum up this latest week of Pretend Football?
Well, this week is all summed up in our leading team, the South Charlottesville Gravy Legs, and it is undefeated.
Undefeated. We'll have to see how many teams can keep that particular rose in their cravats. I believe that's where you keep roses. I may be incorrect, but alas, we are out of time. So, from all of us here at PSBN, this has been Pretend Football Now.